lifestyle meets the perspective of a lifetime. This is the Free Zone. And now, please welcome your host, Freeman.
Well, hello, all my good friends out there all around the world. I'm so glad you're here with me tonight, and I'm here with you, and we're here to change the world. We're here to look at this picture and try to gain some understanding and bring about a new mentality, a new paradigm that's actually going to shift the world's attention away from all of the mainstream media propaganda. Tonight we were talking with Mark Passio from whatonearthishappening.com. He's also a radio broadcaster right here on Oracle Broadcasting. You can catch his show every Sunday night. We will get to that. He will be joining us after this first break. So let's get to some of the news. I just want to get a few things out there. We will get to Amy Winehouse and to the Oslo bombing and things of that nature. I'm sure you're probably sick of it by now. That's okay. Well, the one news story that just really shocked me was 𝖲Ｈʌཌ gets fired. Who knew? I mean, I really thought this guy was, gold-plated. I didn't think that they could take him down. I'm really curious as to what's going to follow. You know, this guy has been the guy standing in the way of every alternative researcher trying to investigate Egypt. Now, some of the reasons that most likely the Indiana Jones of Egypt might have gotten fired was that he had used his fame and position for personal gain. I mean, he was receiving huge sums of money from National Geographic to grant them access to these sites. He used every chance he could to get his face out there on everything. I remember 𝖲Hʌཌ from the finding of the tomb of Osiris to allowing the capping of the Great Pyramid with gold back in 2000. And of course now with the Akhenaten discovery and the announcement that they have the DNA of Akhenaten, Queen T, and Nefertiti and all of that, well, now 𝖮ʰʌß is down. Well, you know, one of the main reasons most people think that he was down wasn't just because he was a major control freak, but also that he was accepting bribes and sexual favors. That's right, to get all of the things that he was getting done in Egypt, and only people that would serve him were allowed to go and investigate the mysteries of Egypt. So I'm glad the man's gone. Now, as I reported before, he was meeting with the Association of Research and Enlightenment, the Edgar Cayce Group, discovering Atlantis, meanwhile pushing this theory that the pyramids were built by men with ropes and ladders. So, 𝖲Hʌཌ, hey, I'm glad you're gone, and I'm really curious to see what happens when the replacement comes in. I don't know if I covered this last time, but the first demonstration of time cloaking has happened. This is coming from the physics blog Technology Review. And the invisibility cloaks are the results of physicists' newfound ability to distort electromagnetic fields in extreme ways. The idea is to steer light around a volume of space so that anything inside this region is essentially invisible. But that's not time cloaking. That's visibility cloaking. No, they have now come up with one that has the possibility to create a duality between space and time using electromagnetic theory and the diffraction of a beam of light, which is mathematically equivalent to the temporal propagation of light through a dispersive medium. In other words, diffraction and dispersion are symmetric in space-time. Yes, a space-time cloak, which only lasts nanoseconds at this point, has been created. Moving right along, 6 adult stem cells were sent up with the Atlantis to the International Space Station. That's right, clones in space coming our way. We'll be right back with Mark Passio.
Papa said, yeah, I know. That's what this is from.
Schmack. Oh, yeah. They sing about it, they tell you about it, but do you really believe in it? Satanic ritual abuse, the idea of creating mind control slaves through rape, through horrific torture. We look at this daily. People like Mark Passio, like Jamie and myself, look into these dark sides and try to bring to you the knowledge we've gained so that you don't have to walk this path. And we try to bring you the sympathy necessary for the victims of this abuse. Mark Passio, a fellow Oracle broadcaster, comes on Sundays, 4 to 6 p.m. Central Time. And he is an independent researcher, public speaker, radio talk show host, conference organizer. He actually organized the Free Your Mind conference, and you can go check all that out on YouTube. I highly recommend it. Some great conversations went on that top. Wow, what a lunch that was we had. Hanging out with time travelers, with Dolphin Man hybrids and everything else. It was a great time. Free Your Mind, definitely check this out. Mark is the author of WhatOnEarthIsHappening.com, and that is also the name of his show. And I'm really excited to have you here tonight with us and to discuss, well, some of the darker sides of reality, Mark.
Freeman, thanks so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
It's fantastic to talk with you. I know I should have talked with you long ago. But everything in due time. We finally got to really meet and share there at the Free Your Mind conference. So now we feel like brothers from another mother, and we can just get into this thing.
Absolutely. Wasn't that just a great weekend? So many brilliant minds coming together for the Free Your Mind conference here in Philadelphia this past April. It was just a great time. So many people learned so much, and a lot of bonds were forged that I think will carry forward into the future.
Yeah, I was a little let down that Laura Eisenhower and Alfred didn't tell us they were going to Hawaii to meet with the dolphins, but I'll forgive them.
I heard that one went over pretty well. I know someone who went and really thoroughly enjoyed it.
I'm sure. I would have been there in a heartbeat. But I'll settle for being intergalactic ambassador with Jamie when Andrew Basiago actually makes it to presidency in 2020. Or at least that's what his time travels are leading him to believe. But Mark, you are such an interesting character, and I want you to just kind of let the people know where your roots came in understanding what we're going to discuss tonight, which is the satanic religion coupled with the destruction of the youth through satanic children's programming. So why don't you tell us just a little bit of your background, your history in the esoteric or occult arts?
Sure. Well, I consider myself a lifetime occultist. I've really been always interested in things hidden and have a natural, innate curiosity. And that led me into questioning my religious upbringing when I was young. However, not having had a background or an understanding of astrotheology then, that level of ignorance as to what my indoctrinated religious upbringing was based upon led me into a path of hatred for the lies that I was being told and exposed to, and the path that I was being led down as far as manipulation went as regards to religion. So I decided to, in that rage or hatred, to basically attempt to go in 180 degrees the opposite direction by getting involved with dark occultism. And that led to me exploring what is generally referred to as the left-hand path, which is basically the antithesis of anything having to do with any sort of a moral code in life. And it's a religion that essentially worships the ego, that the ego is the god of that religion. This is something that many people who look into different religious traditions don't really understand about what Satanism truly is at its core. It's a religion of the ego gone haywire. And that's really where my head was back in my youth. This occurred in my late teens. I guess you would, I would have to say it was probably around 17 years old, and I was heavily involved with the left-hand path religion until I was probably in my mid-20s to late 20s. And I was a member of the Church of Satan that was headed by Anton LaVey on the West Coast. I was made a priest within the Church of Satan and appointed to that rank by LaVey himself while he was still alive, approximately a year and a half before he died. And I was also a member of an East Coast organization based in Florida known as the Order of the Evil Eye, which is sort of an offshoot of the Church of Satan as well. But having gone down this path, I began to understand very deeply the type of psychopathic individuals that were involved in these organizations and the levels of power and influence that they held in our society, and understanding that this was actually something that really saturated our society at higher levels, particularly in positions of influence and positions that hold power and responsibility. And understanding that psychopaths were in this position was quite disconcerting to me, and that led me to start looking a whole lot deeper about the roots of this religion and about just how far it had infiltrated our society. And that led me to my current work, and really led me to a whole new spiritual awakening and a complete reversal in worldview once I understood really the level of, as I said, the level of infiltration that this religion has. It's far more widespread than anyone realizes.
It is a mind boggler. There's no doubt about it, especially when I meet other Satanists, like I met Rex Diabolus Church. Now, he seemed to be a nice enough fellow, but he's also saying that the Church of Satan is just not satanic enough for him, and he's going to start the Chaos Imperium, his own new esoteric order. So I hope to talk with him about that. But
this is something that you see a lot of people who get involved at low levels say, that it's not even dark or evil enough for them, just the basic tenets of the religion itself. And it is, I would consider it a religion based on the very definition of the word religion, which we could go into. But you hear this from people. Michael Aquino, who formed the Temple of Set, made that statement that the Church of Satan was, I guess, too soft for him. Nicholas Schreck, who was involved in the Church of Satan in the 90s, also went over to the Temple of Set after saying that LaVey's ideologies weren't even hardcore enough for him. And you see this trend, and I believe that's what the Church of Satan is even there for. It's there as a psychological sieve. It's there to sift people who display the psychopathic tendencies that the higher level occultists are looking for. And they are there to take people up into the lower echelons of those orders, which are much higher in power and influence than the Church of Satan, which is unquestionably an order that is there simply to interface with the public, to identify the psychopaths that can be used to do the bidding of the so-called elitists at the top levels of the hierarchy.
Okay, so when I see someone coming out of Skull and Bones, and I see these what I call baby eaters, you know, the true elite that I really feel like, you know, like Hillary Clinton, I really feel she's a baby eater. These people are dark, dark magicians that I think surpass the ideals of the Church of Satan. What would you say about these elite and their connections to satanic religion?
Yeah, we're talking about generational lines and bloodlines that go back into the ancient world at this point. These are the true Luciferians that really are. Dark Luciferianism is actually even a higher part of the hierarchy, of the dark occult hierarchy, than Satanism is. Satanists are actually really, again, concerned with their own benefit, but they can be turned into useful dupes or useful puppets or pawns for the real elitists that are really controlling the global game board, so to speak. And I would say that those individuals do indeed surpass even the members of an organization like the Church of Satan in their psychopathy and in their diseased and twisted worldview. And also, again, they surpass them in their level of influence and power in the real world. So they're actually using the satanic organizations to do their bidding at the higher level. And I would say that that higher level of that hierarchy is certainly controlled by what an order of people that I would consider dark Luciferians.
Okay. Yes, I would be right there with you in agreement. Well, let's talk a little bit about religion, and more specifically, the satanic religion. Can you give us a little bit of an understanding of what this means and why you were saying it is definitely a religion?
Sure. Well, let's look at the word religion first in order to identify what I mean by that word. Because if we don't make the definition clear, people will think we're talking about something that we're not.
Exactly.
The word religion in its etymological root is the sense that I'm using the word religion in. And if you go back into the Latin language and understand where the word religion comes from, it comes from a Latin verb, religare. And religare means to hold back, to tie back, to bind, okay? So it means to bind by tying, okay? So it's a binding is what really religion is. Now, in the negative sense, that means you are holding someone back from something that they need, okay? And in this case, I would say what religion is used to do, especially in the modern world, is to hold people back from the truth about what's really taking place in the world, to get them to identify with belief systems rather than the discovery of facts. So in a positive sense, in the original connotation, in the original intent of the word religion, it meant to reconnect someone with that very truth that they are searching for, longing for, and needing in their life in order to progress spiritually and evolutionarily. However, I'm using the term religion in the sense that most modern world religions have become chains. They have become shackles. They have become something that holds us back and keeps our consciousness in a box, in a prison, in a form of mind control from the true understanding that we need to get to become enlightened enough to understand the real causal factors that shape our reality. So that's where the word religion comes from, and that's the sense that I am using it in relationship to the satanic ideology. And I don't call it a philosophy for a reason, because philosophy comes from words meaning the love of wisdom. And if you really understand this religion, it is nothing of the sort. As a matter of fact, it is something that is only going to create more and more chaos in our world, and it certainly is not based on the love of wisdom. It is based on the love of the lower nature of the self. Okay, so that's the first thing to understand about Satanism, is Satanism is pure ego identification. It is identification with the 5 sense reality only, and the discarding of anything that isn't material based. So to a Satanist, a true Satanist, there is really no spiritual essence or underlying spiritual nature to anything. It is pure materialism at its core foundation. That's the first thing that we need to understand. Now, this in itself is a fear-based worldview. This is a fear-based way of looking at the world, because to a Satanist, death is the ultimate, they call it the great abstinence. Okay, because this is another tenet of Satanism, is that indulgences, whether they fuel your base nature, your base instincts, whether they have anything to do with actually fueling the higher centers of self or not, okay, are always to be engaged in. So indulgence over abstinence of any kind, meaning don't even hold back things that may necessarily block or impede your progress forward spiritually or evolutionarily. If it feels good at the time, do it. Now, they'll say, yes, that should be done with some reservation so as not to get involved in things like drug addiction and things like that. However, essentially they're saying, whenever the opportunity for indulgence presents itself, take it. Okay, and this can be done at the expense of others, because the material 5 senses are the things that are there to be fed at all times. Okay, this is based on the idea that death is the end, and there is no other experiences coming past the point of death. Once that arrives, the self is gone, consciousness is gone. Okay, we go into an eternal void or blackness. Okay, and this is something that if you really dwell in this state of existential unconsciousness, I would call it, not even a state of consciousness, but it's really a state of a hideous, dark way of seeing the nature of reality in general, what you will become identified with is pure selfishness. You will become identified only with the things that can help or benefit you, with little to no regard to the well-being of any of your fellow men or women. So it is completely fueling the lower self only, and that's all that is looked at as important. What I can get out of a situation. What can this do for me? So you'll hear as we go on and break this down and flesh it out a little bit more, this seems to be exactly what the majority of people in Western society think like. This is basically has become, this religion has propagated through society. And this is exactly what they want, because if everybody lives like this, it creates more and more chaos in society. And the hierarchy that controls the propagation of this worldview will always come out on top, since they are already controlling the institutions that are in this world. And more of a cry, once enough chaos is happening, more and more of a cry will be felt from people who feel that their lives are out of control, and they're out of control because of living this ideology. They will cry more and more for more stringent controls to make more sense out of the chaos that they're seeing, this controlled chaos. And the hierarchical leaders will always be there ready to propose their solutions to that chaos, to bring about their brand of order, the idea of the dark Hegelian dialectic, or order out of chaos, which is what they're ultimately seeking to create. So ego identification and the worship of the five-sense material reality, and putting that foremost above any sort of a spiritual understanding or a spiritual basis for reality, is one of the primary tenets of Satanism. The second, and really even larger and more overarching tenet of this religion, of this ideology, because indeed it is an ideology, is moral relativism. And this is another thing we see immensely propagated through Western culture. The idea that there is no such thing as objective right or objective wrong, that there is no such thing as natural law, that the laws of nature are not in place and governing the result, okay, the actual effect of our behaviors. So we lay down a cause through what we do. We actually lay down a cause through how we think, number one, how we feel, and then ultimately through what we do, through our actions, our behaviors. And then an effect comes into manifestation because of those causes that we set forward through our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions. This is called the law of cause and effect. Some people have termed it karma. Some people have termed it the law of attraction. It's been called many different things. But the understanding of how the natural laws that govern behavior in the higher reality, in the spiritual domain, which this material world is simply a construct for that living essence or spirit to have experience within, those laws are always functioning, whether we're cognizant of them or not, that natural law. And it's our goal in life, or it should be our goal in life, to become more and more aware of those natural laws so that we understand what we are manifesting as a result of the causal factors that we put into play in the field of experience.
All right. Well, when we get back, we're going to discuss more of this natural law, the idea of satanic evolution, just who Lucifer and Satan might be, and more of Mark's thoughts on the satanic religion. Of course, we'll get deep into, so much more. Natural law, moral relativism, social Darwinism, the idea that might is right, or it's survival of the fittest, satanic evolution. Could this be the case? We're talking with Mark Passio tonight from What on Earth is Happening. and we're going to get into this now. Let's talk some more about natural law and pick this up.
Sure. As I was saying, hey,
and
Jamie, how are
Jamie's
you?
joining us here as well. Hi, Jamie. Say hi to everyone.
Hello. What you were bringing up in the last segment made me kind of think of the nature movies that they're putting out for kids now, especially the Disney movies, where every scene is about survival of the fittest.
Right.
And might is right, and it's all predator-prey instincts and everything. And I was wondering if you saw some type of agenda in that they're trying to replace nature, or say that human nature is the same as animal nature. Is this a satanic worldview, would you say?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, one of the 9 satanic statements, 9 being the biggest number in the satanic religion, because it basically comes back to itself when multiplied. So it's a metaphor for the ego, always multiplying itself when it is employed. One of the 9 satanic statements is that man is just another animal. So if man is just another animal, then we can basically act along the same lines that we observe any of the other animals acting in the animal kingdom, and it is just fine. That is in keeping with our nature. See, Satanists view human nature in a very poisoned and dark way. And I would suggest that man is certainly most not just another animal. And there are reasons that can really be looked at and quantified and understood for just why that is. And one of the main things is, first and foremost, we have an ability to think and process information at a level that no other animal on this planet can. The very nature of our brain, and specifically 2 of the 3 structures of the human brain, are distinctly different than any of the animals in the animal kingdom. So we have a 3-fold brain. The reptile complex, which is basically the brainstem and the cerebellum, governs our motor skills, our respiration, etc., the things that we absolutely require for maintaining life and basically operating in the 3-dimensional physical realm that we operate in. But the higher brains are the limbic brain, which is a mammalian brain, okay? It's definitely newer evolutionarily than the reptile complex of the brain. And this part of the brain, called the limbic system, is what enables us to experience emotion at any level, whether positive or negative emotion, meaning emotion that makes you feel good or bad. So fears can be generated from this part of the brain, as can all the other emotions like empathy, love, warm feeling toward another person, compassion, etc. Okay, so this part of the brain definitely is more advanced than any other animal and gives us a wider range of emotional experience than any other animal is capable of feeling. But particularly the thing that makes us completely different than any other animal on this planet is the higher brain. And this part of the brain is generally referred to as the telencephalon, but the part around the outside of the telencephalon of the brain is known as the neocortex. And this is where all of the neural firing that goes into human thinking, that's where that happens on the surface of the telencephalon. So particularly the part of the brain at the forefront of the telencephalon, on the outer part of it, this is known as the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal neocortex is the most unique structure in the known universe as far as human beings know. It is the most densely memory containing, and it contains the most dense number of connections than any other structure in the world. So this is the human computer that is a unique gift to us and our species, that we are able to process information, come to conclusions, understand the nature of the reality that we are living in, and govern ourselves and our behavior through the processing power of this unique processing computer that we call the human brain, specifically the prefrontal cortex. And this part of the brain is what makes us complete as far as a human being is concerned, because there is a left hemisphere which we engage all of the logic and scientific understandings that we are able to engage in, and then the right brain hemisphere gives us the ability to be creative and artistic and nurturing. And when we put these together, it's a unique combination that is unmatched anywhere else in the kingdom of animals, and that definitely does set us aside from the other animals in the animal kingdom.
That seems to fit right into the definition of magic. Sorry to interrupt.
That is what magic is done with. Magic can only be done once we really have developed that part of the brain that makes us truly human and brought it into a state of balance. Then we can begin to use it for the betterment of our entire species in ways that we can even scarcely imagine right now, because unfortunately, most of our species, this part of the brain exists in a state of disarray and total imbalance. And that is what Satanism ultimately represents. Satanism is extreme left brain hemispherical imbalance. The people who deeply subscribe to this religion and live it, chronically live in this mind state, and it is a state of mind control, make no mistake about it. The people who live in that state of mind, this religion, have an imbalanced neocortex. The left brain hemisphere is significantly dominant over the right brain hemisphere. So these people actually have physical neocortical brain damage that leads to the types of behavior that we see in people who subscribe to this ideology. Now, whether it's simply ideological or whether then it's taken into the realm of action is up to the individual, whether they're actually just lending to this religion in an ideological capacity, or at some point they are identified as truly psychopathic by those higher up in the hierarchy, and then they are taken up to then participate in the types of crimes that the real controllers at higher levels are engaged in. It all has to do with left brain imbalance, and that happens as a result of the environmental conditions through which we perceive our reality. And when those environmental conditions become chronically engaging this person in this type of worldview, and they are unable to make a paradigm shift in their understanding of their reality, the brain actually becomes more and more imbalanced, and the right hemisphere, or what I call, and many other researchers have called, the sacred feminine part of the personality, the part of the consciousness that represents the sacred feminine energy, or the goddess energy, is diminished more and more and more and more in a person who's left brain hemispherically imbalanced chronically.
Now, in the esoteric lore, we call that the Shekinah, and that would be most likely why they called the devastation in Baghdad the shock and awe, because this is the destruction of the feminine. And when we come back to, we're going to get deeper with Jamie into the ideas of Hollywood, satanic mind programming, the destruction of the youth, and social Darwinism, the ideas of what these elite are after, and just about what this cabal might be thinking of creating using these methods of false flag terrorism, such as the Oslo event, or even the death of celebrities, such as the 27 Club, which Amy Winehouse is now a member of. So when we return, we're going to take this a little more into the mainstream celebrity Hollywood satanic world. Well, there are already many curious connections to the Oslo bombing, or the Norway bombing and shooting. I mean, we've got Freemasons in the mix. We got Knights Templars in there. Our assassin has 3 names. He's putting out pictures of himself in Freemasonic outfits, and really didn't seem to exist until just a week before these events happened, or at least his Photoshop pictures and everything else did not appear on the internet till somewhere around July 18th. Now, Radio Havana reported that the ammo used in this the shooting event on the island are almost exclusively only available to NATO forces. And much like 噚𝑇Իn, we're finding that there wasn't a lone gunman, and we're also finding that the bomb that happened in Oslo could not have been fertilizer. So many of the same techniques constantly applied, it's almost boring. When we start to look at the European Union Times, we find that a startling Federal Security Service report on the 22nd of July about the massacre in Norway states that 2 days prior to the catastrophic event, Norwegian Prime Minister Jens Stoltenberg, who has also had friends on that island. Now, on the island were the children of the elite, those that were expected to rise to power within Norway. And one of those people was a friend of the Prime Minister who was shot. Now, they are up to, I believe, 76 dead in this event. But it says that the Prime Minister, 2 days before the attack, placed an urgent call to Putin, now that's the head of Russia, begging Russia's leader to help stop the events that nearly left 100 innocent civilians dead. Now, according to the FSB, the Federal Security Bureau, Stoltenberg first learned of this plot against his country this past Wednesday after reading top-secret reports prepared for him by the Norwegian intelligence service. And this was due to a late March computer attack against Norway that left top military leaders showing them involved in a conspiracy with Britain's MI5 Secret Service and the United States Central Intelligence Agency to launch a two-phase attack upon Norway, modeled after the false flag operations that happened in Australia and America in the mid-90s. I mean, there's just no doubt. And to just top this whole thing off, there was an Oklahoma City bombing on very close to this same time in Junction City. Investigation continued on I-70, which is right up the street from me. Kansas officials were saying that they were being cautious when they stopped this truck, which was covered in strange writing and was a suspicious vehicle, but no explosives were found, and it was a real high-profile chase for a while, and they shot down the entire Oklahoma City area of I-70. So now we're seeing constant, Kansas City, not Oklahoma, Junction City. We're finding these stories just keep coming up and keep coming up, and when things like this happen, we have now been turned to the idea of high-profile ritual sacrifice or blood sacrifice. Mark, do you believe that blood sacrifice or even human sacrifice is still occurring, and then could it be connected to this type of Freemasonic Knights Templar triple-named shooter that we have now with this island affair in Norway?
To me, there's no question that blood sacrifice or human sacrifice in general is still taking place right in the modern day. It has been perpetuated through the ages, except now we no longer march people up pyramids to have their hearts carved out by obsidian knives. Instead, buildings get blown up or people are shot in mass numbers. And this Oslo situation, to me, has all of the trademarks of an occult sacrifice, specifically if you look at the numerology of the event. And I've just done a show very recently on my show on Oracle talking about the numerology of the 9/11 event, and I have to say they're extraordinarily similar. First of all, it takes place in Oslo. That right there is a sign, because we have the letters OS, okay, which is another way of saying OZ or Oz. And I know you've done a lot of work regarding this name. And this smacks of Aleister Crowley and his holy guardian angel Aiwass, okay, the Wizard of Oz, okay?
Isn't Oz also considered one of the lowest levels in hell?
Well, there's different interpretations of it. I have actually done an entire presentation on the movie The Wizard of Oz and how that's an actual empowering occult allegory. But there are different interpretations of what the concept of Oz is in the occult.
Okay.
In general, when you see that, though, you can be almost guaranteed you're seeing an occult working being done in the light of day. Osama bin Laden, his name begins with Oz, and his code name in the Al-Qaeda database that was constructed by the CIA, because these were simply radicalized mujahideen fighters in the Afghan war, was Tim Osman. Osman, O-S-M-A-N. The patsy in the JFK shooting is Oswald. I mean, you can go on and on with the connections. Now, this happens in Oslo. Now, some people can say that's a coincidence, and I could say, well, it's either a coincidence or an orchestration or another thing known as synchromysticism, in which the universe is trying to say, sit up and pay attention. There's a pattern here, okay? The numbers, 722, okay? This adds to 11. And if you take it a little bit further, you have it on the year 2011. So 722 is 11 on that side, and then 2011, when we shorten it, we don't use the 4 digits for the year. We say it's year 11 of this century, so it's 1111. 11 is a signaling number in the occult. It's a number by which occultists generally identify themselves to each other through. Okay, this particularly in the Ɂ𝑇ԻΝ school of occultism. Okay, the other number comes up in this ritual, which I would definitely say this was some sort of a trauma-based mind control ritual and a human sacrifice ritual, and that's why it's ultimately done, to inject trauma so that people go into fear mode, and when you're in fear mode, you're in the base brain. You're not in the higher brain. You're not making logical, rational decisions. You're reacting out of fear. Okay, so look at the number of reported dead. The first reports claimed that there were 93 dead.
That's right.
Okay, now why that number? And that now it has been lowered. And now the most recent estimates of the dead are 77. So anybody paying attention, even in the smallest way, regarding occult numbers, recognize these numbers immediately. A small amount of inquiry into the occult will put you across these numbers almost instantly. The number 93 being a high consciousness number, representing leaving the 9, or the base consciousness that Satanism represents, the satanic ideology generally represents, because it's the worship of ego, okay, and staying in that lower nature, to go to the 3. To rise to the Trinity consciousness of unity between thought, emotion, and action, the 3 aspects of our consciousness. So yes.
I'm sorry, the number of ₦𝑇ԻN as well?
The ঽ𝑇îmic number, the number of will/love, the number 93. See, people misquote the law of төлema as being do what thou wilt. That's only the first part of it. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, but love is the law, and love under will, which means that anything that we base our will upon must be based in love. Love must be the foundational basis upon which the will rests. That's why it says love under will.
That is a strong message, too. And we'll have to pick that up in the other half. We'll be taking your phone calls if you want to call in. The numbers are on oraclebroadcasting.com or over at freemantv.com. It's 512-904-8014 or 866-841-1065. We'll be taking your calls in the next hour. Thank you all for tuning in. Mark, this is an amazing show. And welcome to the Free Zone here on Oracle Broadcasting, bringing you all of the freshest in the occult and in news and in every way, shape, or form that I can find. I never want to bring you the old school. I want to bring you the new school. And Mark Passio of whatonearthishappening.com is absolutely new school, giving us information that we can't get anywhere else. If you guys want to help keep the Free Zone going, help keep the Freeman Perspective TV show going, please come over to freeman.tv and subscribe. $5 a month is a little bit out of your pocket, but it's a huge amount in mine. I can do so much with that, and I'm really looking forward to putting together all these new great projects for you. And you can help by being an investor. You'll also get all the new TV shows and full access to anything and everything that I've got. So come on over to freeman.tv, click the subscribe button, get it going, and I promise you gold in the end. There's no doubt about it. I just want to work. I also have out the new DVD, E.T. and the Transhumanist Agenda. You can now get all 6 of these DVDs. Just go over to Freeman's DVDs and check it out. This is 5 hours long, getting deep into why they shut down NASA, why they bombed the moon, all of the esoteric arts that are going on in NASA, along with human cloning and a lot of the strange madness that's coming up through the transhumanist agenda, or the seeking of immortality. So, yeah, check that out, E.T. and the Transhumanist Agenda. Subscribe to help keep this show going, and we will just make gold and change the world together. That's my only hope. I have Friends of Freeman going, and all of us are joining there and joining forces, trying to get together so that we can come up with, creative projects that are going to shift the world into a new paradigm. That's our only hope now. And Mark, I know that you and your next few shows that you will be doing coming up are going to move away from the dark side a little bit, and in discussing all of this evil that we have to sink our teeth into, and often, suffer a bit of depression while studying, and start to move over to these higher aspects of our existence and the higher brain. So I'm really looking forward to those shows from you.
That's right. I've been covering the methods of mind control for over a year. I'm going to wrap up the whole look at the dark by looking into this very thing, the ideology of Satanism and dark Luciferianism. And it will be the wrap-up for that progression of looking at all of the darkness of our world, which is essential and critical to look into if we're going to enlighten ourselves. We can't ignore all of that stuff. But I'm going to be transitioning into solutions-oriented approaches for how we can overcome this darkness, and that's what the remainder of this show will focus on. I'll occasionally go back and revisit topics, but I think it's going to be largely solution-oriented approaches from here on out, and I'm going to seek to interview some of the leaders in these fields of transitioning to a new paradigm of existence here on this planet.
Awesome. And I guess you and 𝖲ₛX will be making an appearance on Bob Tuskin's show here soon?
Coming up soon, yes. Keep tuned for that. I don't know exactly when, but it'll be coming up in the near future, yes.
I think it's amazing and fantastic that people like you coming out of the Church of Satan, coming out of the esoteric orders to help us understand as we start to come into a new understanding of the rulers and those that are guiding the civilization that we live in. And 𝖲ₛX as well, coming out of Freemasonry and the Knights of Templar, still a member of these orders, but coming and giving us the inside scoop. They're all ready to move towards a positive solution. We're ready to quit chasing the vipers in the den and just start a new paradigm. I feel it growing in each and every one of us, and now we're all bonding through our internet connections and finding one another face to face through these interactions, and that's what's really more important than these one-dimensional exchanges over the internet. But if that's the tool we have, that's the tool we're going to use, and we're going to keep pounding it into brains that humans are actually loving, generous, caring beings on this planet that really are not seeking this psychopathy that our elite seem to chase. So let's get back to social Darwinism. Let's just outline this a little bit more, the idea of natural law or moral relativism, and then we'll go to the phone calls. So if you guys want to call in, 512-904-8014, that's the inside the U.S., or outside, 866-841-1065. That's toll free. The numbers are on oraclebroadcasting.com. So let's go right to moral relativism, Mark.
Sure. I left off the last segment by basically tacking on the second half of that law of thelema. Love is the law, love under will. And this is the concept that is completely lacking in the satanic ideology. To the Satanist and the dark Luciferian, will is the most important thing and should be used unrestrained.
That's
certainly. Yes.
I'm sorry, but that's what the Green Lantern was about. Have you seen that movie, the new one?
I have not.
Explain.
Go ahead.
No, I have not seen it.
Oh, okay. Well, in the beginning, they tell you that the most powerful force in the universe is the will force, and that the color of the will force is green. And this was going against what I heard you say at the conference, that the color of love is green and that it's the color of your heart chakra.
Well, in this Green Lantern film, they really pushed the idea of will and fear. And every time the opportunity for the word love to squeak into this military-industrial complex film, it fell like a lead balloon. There was no word, no mention of love, although it should have been said a number of times in the film. But they focused on will and fear, and these were the powers that these people had. So what do you think about this transition in their ideas of putting in the wrong colors as far as we're concerned? And
this sounds like the distinguishing between magic and sorcery. I've defined, and as many other researchers and occultists have defined magic as being the art and science of influencing change to occur in the world in accordance with the will, and sorcery as having the exact same definition, albeit with one important change. The word will, in the definition of true magic, or what I would term alchemy, as having a capital W. And the capital W will is synonymous with love and is synonymous with the will of creation, or what I would call natural law principles. The lowercase will in the definition of sorcery is referring to the personal, selfish, egoic will of the practitioner, of the sorcerer, him or herself. This means the difference or the dichotomy between service to self, which would be considered satanic / sorcery, okay, Satanism / sorcery, and service to others, which would be considered magic or alchemy, okay? So the all-important thing to keep in mind is which will are we referring to? Are we referring to higher will, or are we referring to lower will? Are we referring to the will that engages the best for our species and engages love and truth and freedom? Or are we talking about the will that only serves the selfish, ego-centric aspects of the personality?
Says, I want.
Their world's different.
Well, let's take this call from North Dakota. They've been hanging out for a little while.
Sure.
Patrick, you are live on the Free Zone with Mark Passio.
Hey guys, interesting stuff. I guess I recently did a show on occult symbolism in 9/11 myself, and it's definitely it seems like a huge magical ritual. They have like, well, what I've been following, I kind of got interested in this researcher named ୖ𝘞 from Canada.
He's been on the show. Great
really?
guy. He's in my Type 1 artist, if you want to check it out. I have a whole list of people like that.
Yeah, he's excellent, Ł𝘞. Yeah, he talks about synchromysticism a lot as well.
Yeah, and he related, like, first you had, like, the Millennium Hilton Hotel, which is symbolic, or they designed it to represent the monolith.
Yeah, the monolith on 2001.
Which is, like, a symbolic of, like, consciousness being uplifted or something like that, right?
Well, what do you
say
about
of sorts.
This type of aesthetic
Stargate,
terrorism, Mark? The idea of these dominating buildings, I mean, that thing feels like it's going to fall on you. Is this kind of part of this cabal of Satanist creed? And I want to lead you back to the moral relativism.
Sure.
So what do you think about this type of ritual 9/11 ideas and the use of like aesthetic terrorism such as the Millennium Hilton building?
Yeah, I think you'll always see in symbolism the domination of a male symbol, a male-oriented symbol, or a phallic symbol over a feminine symbol, which is more rounded, maybe shaped, dome-shaped, breast-shaped, etc. This is why you'll see things like the Twin Towers completely dwarf the sphere that was right in the middle of the two pillars. This is why you'll see things like the Washington Monument completely dwarf in height the Capitol dome, okay, because it's showing the out-of-balance nature of everything that's around us, much more geared toward the left brain and the masculine, and the will alone divorced from the sacred feminine. The nurturing instincts, the right brain, and the creative and imaginative aspects of ourselves and our society. These are the things that controllers want to see suppressed, those right brain qualities, because they're the things that lead to true freedom.
This is why Disney says how to capture your imagination. I mean, they really mean it. And Patrick,
Sure.
Thank you for the call. We got to let you go because we're coming up on a break. But feel free to call in, folks, 512-904-8014 or 866-841-1065. Numbers are on Oracle Broadcasting, or come on over to freeman.tv and subscribe, join up, get all the good stuff, and check out all these wonderful hosts here at oraclebroadcasting.com. You're listening to Mark Passio from whatonearthishappening.com. And we will be right back with more of your phone calls and more questions from Jamie and some moral relativism. Or I am cutting the break too soon. We removed this commercial break, and every second hour I forget that. So sorry about that, Patrick, and letting you go. But, we needed to get rid of the commercials so that we could really get deep into things. And, who the hell needs commercials anyway? So back to moral relativism. What are we talking about here? And I'm really curious about this cabal, these overlords, and what their dream of the future really is.
Sure, we could talk about that as well. Again, one of the main tenets of Satanism as a religion is the concept that there is no actual point of fact, right or wrong, that there is no defining moral code that we can understand and live according to, that would govern our behavior such that we, if we come into harmony with this system, would lead to true order and freedom, versus that if we were to live in complete discord with these laws, which I term natural law, and many other researchers and people who have studied these laws that indeed are in effect around us. They may be unseen laws, but they are certainly in effect. If we live in discord with them, we're creating more and more chaos and ultimately putting ourselves deeper and deeper in chains. And quite frankly, this is one of the main reasons why society is basically going into a spiraling decay of this form of relativism, and why we're losing our freedoms by the second is because the natural law that defines right versus wrong is being completely ignored.
And flipped on its head even. We're in the age of the dark hero, where vengeance is justice and where killing is fun.
Yeah. The whole idea that justice can come about through control, that justice can come about through domination, is utterly ridiculous. That's always going to result in failure and the creation of more chaos. True justice, true order, true freedom can only come about through the education of the natural law system, and then the willful decision to live in harmony with those laws.
I'm sitting here watching a young boy of about 6 watch The Punisher as it came out on television and released on television. And this little kid, he wants to do nothing but make guns and knives and weapons of any choice that he could come up with. But meanwhile, as he's watching this Punisher punish the villains, and he is just, really, ripping their spines out and such, he looks to me with a bit of fear in his eye and says, because the movie had said this, it's okay, it's justice. And he didn't understand what that meant, but the TV had told him that this was justice. And now we see that we have an elite cabal that are trying to rule the planet that believe this type of violence is justice. And fear is the way to keep people in line.
That's the way to ensure that they never consciously understand natural law, and again, make that willful decision to operate within its parameters. And that's the only way that any order or justice or balance can ever be created. And this is the symbol on the tarot deck that lies, if you lay out the cards according to the microcosmic and macrocosmic trees of life, the justice card falls at the very top of the macrocosmic tree of life. This is what the universe is actually trying to achieve, to create this state of balance that is called justice. That is the justice card, and it is a depiction of a king seated on a throne with one sword, a sword raised in one arm, and scales that are perfectly balanced raised in the other arm. This suggests that the only way to create this state is through proper moral education and the balancing of the brain hemispheres to a point where neither the right nor the left brain hemispheres are dominant over the other.
Right.
We don't have a society like that. We have one that prizes the masculine, prizes the will, prizes the intellect over all of the sacred feminine qualities that we should be nurturing in order to bring ourselves into a state of balance and unity consciousness.
Well, what do you think about
yes.
Aleister Crowley switching strength and justice, and now switching basically 9 and 11 in these tarot decks? Do you have any opinion on why he would have shifted these cards?
Yeah. Yes, I actually lay out the reason for that reversal in my presentation on The Wizard of Oz, believe it or not, because I was analyzing the coronation of the Cowardly Lion. See, when will is prized above everything else, that is turned into the king. And the lion represents needing to overcome fear in order to carry out one's will. Now, I have no doubt in my mind that we as a society need to step up when it comes to courage. This fear is what keeps people completely complacent, not acting. It keeps us inactive, not
and reacting, right?
And reacting, that's right. Operating from a place of base consciousness versus a place of true logic, true intuition, and true balanced behavior. When we don't have courage, we act out of imbalance. We react out of imbalance. So he's saying there that courage is the thing that the universe really ultimately wants to create. But I would say it's more of a means to the end of balance and justice that needs to be created. Also, I don't look at that as an accurate reversal of those two cards, because I feel that the courage is associated with the solar plexus chakra of energy, and that is placed at the third rung on the tree of life, so to speak. So when you lay out the major arcana of the tarot into the two-tree arrangement, the microcosmic tree and macrocosmic tree, that would accurately place the lion card on the sphere of Ď, which would basically associate it with the courage center, or the internal nature of will that resides within each one of us. And no question that needs to be actively developed. And it is the thing that ultimately conquers the force of fear. So it is critically important. But I wouldn't say that it warrants that reversal. And that's something that I looked into for a long time and didn't understand for a long time until I made a more thorough research of tarot and its connections with the Kabbalistic tradition.
So what about the dark side of this tree? I've gotten into the numerology of it. I predicted W because he was represented by the number 66 or VV, and this took me to this dark side of the tree of life. We've discussed the tarot a bit, so let's talk about the other side. The how can you say this word? Qliphot?
Qliphot, yes.
I have been working on that one for 5 years.
This is the wastelands.
Let's talk about this, because now we got the W. We got this idea of the 66 and Philip 66, and we see this incorporated often in the symbolism. Hitler's Volkswagen had the 2V symbolism.
Yes.
We have to understand this dark side to understand our light side.
Well, see, I would associate this directly with the Norway numerology, because it happened on 4/22. And again, there's that doubling of the number 11. 22 is the number of paths on the tarot as well. And specifically, when you look at the Ṭhipāṭic Kabbalah, okay? I'm sorry, the number of paths on the Kabbalistic tree, I should have said, but they're associated with the 22 major arcana cards of the tarot deck as well, each one being given to one of the paths that connects the Sephirot on the tree of life. There is a tree of death that is the Ṭhipāṭic tree. And I talked about this in the segment where the few shows that I broke down Kabbalah and the Tree of Life. I didn't get deep into the paths. I mainly focused on the Sephirot on the tree. But if you study the Kabbalistic tradition, you find these 10 emanations that lie upon the Tree of Life. They're all representative of different aspects or qualities of the self, and all need to be deeply understood and learn how to integrate these together to come to a place of unity, consciousness, and oneness and right action in the world. That's what the true tradition of Kabbalah is attempting to teach. There is a perverted and twisted view of the Kabbalistic tree that is referred to as the Ṭhipāṭic tradition. Okay, and this is, in other words, a complete reversal. These are known as the 22 tunnels of Qliphoth. They're also referred to in some traditions as the 22 tunnels of Set. And these are, it's connected with the dark god Set of the Egyptian tradition. Because yes.
I got to step in here now. We got Set and the idea of the biting off of testicles. And this concept that just, yes, the idea of Typhon, the idea of the tunnels of Typhon, even according to Bill Schnoebelen, connected to the rites of the Royal Arch, and black's magic connected to sodomy, and the idea of
sure,
butt sex and black magic going hand in hand. What do you have to say to this?
Well, this is directly related to trauma-based mind control, because in a state of a weakened condition where there has been physical trauma and abuse, particularly in the young, in children, and this happens more than anyone would care to admit or to look into. And when these rituals are being conducted upon children and they're being beaten or flogged or electricity being used upon them, what will then often be done is there will be a sudden penetration, and again, it will be anal, and that will trigger a Kundalini response, where this Kundalini energy from the very base of the person rises up all the way to the top of the head and travels through the spinal cord. Now, Kundalini experiences can be very disconcerting, even for spiritually advanced individuals who are not expecting them, because sometimes they're triggered suddenly or unwantedly. And many people will have no idea what's taking place during that experience. So you could imagine how completely disconcerting and traumatizing it may be to have that triggered in a very young individual. What it's being used to do, that sexual energy, is being used to literally hammer the brain and quite literally send electrochemical signals into the brain all at once in order to fragment the different aspects of the personality and then compartmentalize them in different areas of the brain. And I know that sounds almost like far-fetched, like that can even be conceived of.
Not anymore, Mark, not anymore. And we're back up on a break, so I just want to say, Area 51 really promotes this type of activity. Every time I look at these children cartoons, I see horror movies. Place many of us researchers have gone and dared to dwell and come back a bit. Post-traumatic stress disorder victims ourselves. There's no doubt that this study is one that you don't want to continue on, but has to be looked at, has to be understood to understand what the elite want out of existence. And so as we take this dark road, we lead it to the light, and that is our hope. And you probably won't find us coming back to this dark path to give you more. So as there are more high-profile death rituals such as Amy Winehouse, we'll leave this to the others that have picked up on our trail to cover and to bring to you. Because it's time to bring the light. It's time to bring Sophia, the wisdom, the beauty of life to everybody's existence so that we can all transcend. That's the whole purpose of us coming out here and talking with you. Mark, we have a caller, so I think we should go to Sam in Iowa.
Sure.
And see what he has to say. So you're live on the Free Zone. What's on your mind? You're talking with me and Mark and Jamie. Are you there?
Oh, yeah, I'm here. Man, I had this crazy idea, and then you started talking. I completely forgot about it.
My bad. I know how that is.
You ever get that? You think of something.
Oh, come on. I do live radio. That's my life.
No, but what I do is I think of something, and then I keep thinking of the other things that relate to that, and then I forget what the original question was.
Well, you want
to... It's like I solved all the problems in the world, and then I forgot what I was trying to solve.
Well, you want me to let you hang on and come back in a minute?
No, because I originally called for something else. I just got to thinking about that. No, I was at work. I work at this plant, and we sit in there. And today, my coworkers were listening to Top 40 radio, and there was this song. I thought it was all right. It's by this group called LMAFO. And I was checking them out. I watched their video, and it was kind of funny. And I looked the guy up. His name allegedly is Sky Blue, and he was on a plane in 2010, and he punched Mitt Romney. Have you ever heard of anything like that? So what do you know about this cat? He doesn't even have a Wikipedia page, but he's like in the top 10.
No, I've never heard of him. You, Mark?
No, I have not.
All right. Sorry.
Okay, well, yeah. He punched Mitt Romney in a plane, and I never even heard about it in the news.
Right.
I follow the news pretty closely, so that's kind of weird, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there's a character, right? Mitt Romney, definitely a possibility for the 2012 against Obama, who I'm predicting it'll be Obama. But Mitt Romney, Mormon, father, head of the mind control in the military-industrial complex, coming out, and we're starting to see these more frontal Manchurian candidates that are obvious. I mean, come on, how many people have a federal agent living in their bedroom or are a member of these military-industrial mind control programs that are coming to the elite? Tell us, Mark, what's this ultimate goal? What can you see out of this Satanist agenda, their moral relativism taking full form?
Well, if they can continue to inject fear into society through trauma, which will keep people in a base modality of consciousness and keep them locked in the R complex of the brain. And in that state of mind, you're in a state of complete imbalance. You're never really able to see wider patterns. You're never really able to truly govern your behavior. And you'll only ever be creating more chaos in the realm of manifestation, which we call the experience of life here on Earth. What they want to do as a result of that is manage that chaos and control it and bring about a world of pure slavery in which every person in that hierarchy of slavery is actually simultaneously a slave and a master at the same time, because there will be levels of hierarchy within it whereby some people at the bottom, okay, will actually near the bottom will manage people below them. And these will be like, let's say, bosses of companies will own and manage people below them who are just pure workers. And then above them, they'll have, CEOs who basically they answer to, and that's hierarchically their master in the pyramid. And then, people above that, like, you have people in military, and then they'll have commanding officers and people in government, and they'll have, people at higher levels of government than them. Wow. And this hierarchical system just keeps going and going and going until you get to the highest level in human form. But those people are still slaves to the force that's ultimately controlling the entire game. That's what we're up against. We don't struggle against just the materiality and the actual human forms that this system of control takes on. It's the force of fear and chaos itself that we're actually struggling against to break free from.
And these people are actually in communication with this type of force through esoteric rituals, through blood sacrifice, and are somehow receiving a program. Would you agree with this?
I would say that is most certainly their belief, and I would probably lean toward that they are indeed in communication with that. However, I don't think it's important to even make the distinction because these people actually believe that and are acting upon that belief. It's the idea that, well, do you believe that it's what these people believe in really exists? I don't think it's even as important as understanding as really truly grasping the concept that these people believe that so strongly that they are willing to act upon it.
Right.
And that's the main thing. These people have a united sense of will with their intellect. They have united their intelligence and their will. And they have completely removed the third aspect of consciousness, which is their emotions, their care. Okay, their feelings are basically nullified. This is the concept of what the skull and bones or the poison symbol represents. It's the unification of pure intellect and pure will and the removal of the sacred feminine, or that Sophia essence that we talked about. And when you do that, it's a very dangerous combination. And if they can get other people to subscribe to that same way of being in the world becomes more chaotic and more easily falling into their controlled chaos paradigm, because that's what their New World Order ultimately is all about, is the control of their injections of chaos in order to always come out on top, to know the game before it is even played. You know what the end result is going to be because you already know what all of the moves in the game are. You know what created the chaos to begin with. You know how you're going to manage it. You know the solutions you're going to propose, so you know the end game.
Well, what are some of the solutions you would propose to in 2 minutes or less?
To nullify that?
To nullify that.
The first thing is to raise your state of awareness through the information that you take in, okay, and be eclectic enough, meaning to gather that information from a variety of sources with an open mind, and then process that information to come to an accurate conclusion about what is taking place, but simultaneously look at that without fear. Don't react to it. Decide a proper course of action that you're going to take and make that action in alignment with natural law, meaning that you are not setting out to harm other people, but you are setting out to raise their vibratory state of consciousness through awareness. And that is exactly what we seek to do here on this network. That's why you started a radio program and all the wonderful videos that you've put out. That's why I have done a radio show. It's about reaching out to others to help them to understand the concepts about how this place works and how we are co-creators in this realm. And it's all about outreach and making connections.
Non-Compliance Week is coming up in September. Google it, just Non-Compliance September, and check it out. I think all of us are going to try quitting our jobs and saving the world on that week, and we'll just see how much unity there is between all of us. Maybe enough of us have realized that we are already servants to Satan, that each of these corporate jobs that we just overbroke, should be the proper term, survive through our ending, and we can start this whole new paradigm. I would add also that we should have a global block party. You're listening to The Free Zone, and we'll be right back with more solutions and your calls. Oh, can we even say what is true nature in the human stance anymore? Can we possibly believe that any human out there is acting on his own free will and goodness, other than someone that's maybe been lost in the jungle somewhere? I don't think so. I don't think we can talk about human nature anymore or try and say what humans are all about, because we're We're animals in a cage being tormented by our zookeepers. Right, Mark?
Yeah, I think environmental conditions largely play the biggest factor in behavior. But with enough will that has been developed through self-examination, I think we can overcome even those conditioning factors.
I think
that's
it would
why
happen
I
fast.
tend not to call it the human nature. When we look at what's going on here, we don't call it the human nature. We call it the human condition, because it is all about those conditioning factors. But again, I think if enough true will is employed, and we really get deep down in touch with the qualities of self, and I don't mean the lowercase s self, I'm talking about the true self, our higher nature. We can commune with that energy of that higher vibratory energy of love, and then we could, synthesize that with our will to transcend even those conditioning factors that are out there and that have been basically at work upon us for a very, very, very long time in our history.
I think it would happen so fast everybody would be shocked. Well, Mark, we have a couple of callers. Let's get them in before this show ends.
Absolutely.
All right, 302. I have no idea who you are, but you're live on the Free Zone.
This is Cole from Wilmington, Delaware.
Hey, Cole.
Hi, Mark and Freeman and Jamie.
What's on your mind?
I just wanted to call. I don't want to take up too much time, but I just wanted to call and tell you guys how much I really love you guys.
Hey, thank you. Man, that word just does not get tossed about enough.
No, but I went to the temple with you guys up in Philadelphia, Mark and Barb, and you and Jamie, and I don't really get into this stuff too much, but I love what you guys are talking about. I haven't listened to the show in such a long time, but since Mark was on here, I figure I couldn't pass up wanting to fulfill the desire to call up and just tell you guys how much I really appreciate you, and I think about you guys a lot.
Cool.
Well, Cole,
I appreciate
You have
that.
Are you planning to come visit soon still?
Yeah, you know who this is.
Yeah, I know.
I actually emailed Mark's wife a couple of days ago too, and would really love to stay in touch with you guys. But
Well, get over to Friends of Freeman, and we'll all commune there.
Yeah, that was a good time. That was a good time after the Free Your Mind conference, wasn't it?
Definitely.
it really was, and I feel really blessed to have the opportunity to do that.
All right, we got to rock and roll, Cole. Thank you, and
Cool.
we'll
All right,
talk
see ya.
really soon, and probably see you in my living room not too long from now. Chris in Ottawa, hey, what's on your mind?
I've really enjoyed your show. I'm a psychologist, and I write on mysticism and the occult and science and such. And I just wanted to make a comment about consciousness. And I don't think it's an issue of left brain, right brain, as much as it is the head and the heart. And in mystical teachings, they define self-realization as the dissolution of the false mind into the lotus of the heart. And that a person's self, the capital S, is within the heart, the monadic essence of the Jiva Atma. So the self is within the heart. And in Judaism, they sometimes say the truth is under our noses all the time, because our nose, and in the Judaism, wisdom and understanding are associated with the heart. And the top three sephira come down and anchor into Tiferet in the heart. So man's essential consciousness is the heart consciousness. And we talk about, why aren't people doing more? And the word courage comes from French for la cour, meaning heart. And courage implies having a new heart. And I think this is people's essence is connected to their heart. That's not the mind in the head.
That's born out in the Egyptian tradition. In the Cometian tradition, the seat of the soul was not looked at as the head or the brain. It was looked at as the heart.
Sorry, I didn't mean to hang up. I meant to mute. It's going so fast. So, yeah, you would agree with that's a fantastic call there.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I hit the wrong button.
If you look at the center of the tree of life that roots all of the other, connects all of the other Sephirot, that the tree would collapse if it was not there, it is Tiferet, which is the heart chakra.
All right, we got Kevin from Minnesota. We're going to just try and rifle through these and then get some last comments. Kevin, what's on your mind?
Hey, Freeman, long time no talk. Good to hear JB on the show tonight, and thanks for having the guest Mark here. Real quickly on a side topic, I used to tell you about up here in Minnesota that they have an outdoor festival in the fall. It used to be called Harvest Fest, but they changed the name to Shangri-La, and I think Freeman needs to be there. It's a wonderful experience. It's really family-orientated. Kids are totally welcome, and it's a 3-day outdoor event. I'll try to get you some information about it, but I'd even send you gas money to get you there, my brother.
Fantastic.
But,
Shangri-La, I'm on my way.
But then for your guest, real quickly, I am of Anishinaabe descent, and the French call this Ojibwe, and the English call this Chippewa. Do you have any experience or knowledge, or what have you been told about the Anishinaabe? And a quick reference, Anishinaabe broken down means when the species were lowered to the earth.
Interesting. I'm not familiar with the tradition.
All right, Mark, give us some of your last ideas here. Sorry to the rest of the callers, but we've run out of time. I want to hear your ideas on what should we do or not do.
Sure. Well, when people ask me this, I generally give them that my ultimate solution lies in more what we need to pull away from or not continue to do versus what we actually need to set in motion. The solution to the path that we're headed down in the dark world that we can see that's being created right before our eyes, the solution to it doesn't necessarily lie so much in the new activities and things that we need to do. It is much more rooted in the things that we need to stop cooperating with and going along with. And that takes development of heart and courage in order to develop the willpower to pull away from those things and basically let those systems that are seeking to enslave us collapse upon themselves in a controlled way, pun intended, okay, so that we can then move forward and then basically do things that are in keeping with the betterment of humanity and the oneness that we really are all a part of, versus these systems that basically divide and seek to conquer and enslave humanity. We need to transition away from those and toward ones which are sustainable and geared toward freedom. It's all about freedom. Do you think this would be
laid in the heart of friendship?
I think a lot of interconnections need to be made between people, and conversation, deep conversation, is part of it. Conversation means, in the Latin language, to change together. Con means together or with, and versare means to change. And that's what this is all about, is the one great change, which is what the universe is. And again, I tend to take the embrace of that negative, or the saying no, finding the power within one to
Sorry to cut you off, but we're over. And that's the truth of it. Non-compliance, folks, and friendship to the end. We need to bond and show each other that we're here for one another. Mark, thank you so much. Check out his stuff at whatonearthishappening.com. Catch his show on Purple Broadcasting. You are so welcome, Mark. Thank you so much for this great and wonderful show. Straight from the inside, folks, here's your answers. Love and friendship will save the day. Courage.